Good day, St. Lucia, and welcome to another edition of Chill and Chat. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis. Today, my guest is the MP for Dennery North, Honorable Shawn Edward. Good day, Honorable.
Thanks, Mondi, for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your program. It's a program I've followed very, very closely ever since you started sharing with the candidates of the Labour Party and by extension the people of St. Lucia the exciting plans that the Labour Party has for the country, and more importantly, basically giving St. Lucians an opportunity to get to know the candidates even more intimately than some of them would know at the level of constituency.
Indeed. So, down to you. Let's get to know Shawn Edward, a two-time MP. So, Shawn, are you from the Mabuya Valley, Dennery North?
Yes, Mondi. I'm a proud product of the Mabuya Valley, the Dennery North constituency. I was born in Dennery. I've lived there all my life.
Wow.
And I must tell you that it is a particularly, I find pleasure in referring to Dennery North and more specifically Dennery as home.
Yes, yeah, I know you'll have a very proud people down there,
Indeed.
and they're fierce defenders, and to make the distinction, no, Mabuya Valley, not just Dennery.
Yes. Absolutely, Mondi. And I think it's a distinction that we must make. I noticed that there are persons from certain geographic parts of St. Lucia. What they do is that they just take the two Dennerys and just call them Dennery. People from the Mabuya Valley or Dennery North in particular, they do not always take kindly to that label. And my people like to make a distinction between the Mabuya Valley and what we know as Dennery. So if you were to go into Oleon, Grand Ravine or Gardet, and you say to somebody, and you meet the person in Castries, and you said that you go into Dennery, then they would actually direct you to the bus stand that transports people to the Dennery village. And so it's not the same for them. But for persons who do not reside in the basin, for them, Dennery is just one. But that distinction is made all the time in the basin. So if you're from Dennery, as far as people from Olio, Grand Riviere, Richford are concerned, you say you're from Dennery, then they're referring to persons who live in La Pointe and the village.
Okay.
But when you say the Mabuya Valley, you're basically referring to people in Dennery North. But the thing about it is that the Mabuya Valley is a more geographic concept, which really starts from the Fondor Bay all the way up to the last Osier Badlil Ridge.
Okay.
So the Mabuya Valley would be all the communities in Dennery North. And it would also include Lime and Lakai, who happen to be part of Dennery South. Yes.
Okay, understood.
So I'm from the Mabuya Valley.
I really got an education today. Thank you for that, Honorable.
Yes.
But let's talk about growing up in Dennery North. What was life like, or has been, because you've never left? What is life in
Well, Mondi, I'll say this. I will not trade my country upbringing for anything in this world. As I said, I was born in Dennery, and I grew up doing all the things that young boys did growing up in a rural community. You went on the playing field when you got an opportunity. You start a football match at 10 o'clock in the morning, rain or shine, and sometimes all 4 o'clock. Maybe somebody who's senior in the group will say, maybe it's halftime at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, having started since 10 in the morning. And then at halftime, we'd go to the river to bathe, you'd go and look for mangoes, and that half would last sometimes a whole hour. And then you come again until it was time to go home. And sometimes not following the instructions of your mother, there was something a little more than dinner waiting for you at home. And I was at the receiving end of that on several occasions. But it was really fun growing up in Dennery Riviera. Mango season, you used to go and look for mangoes, climb mango trees, go to the river, catch crayfish, and do all the things that boy did. But something that was very, very close to our hearts as boys growing up was cricket and, of course, football. We were very big on sport. And I think that helped me tremendously in terms of going on to represent not just community, but country at age group level in cricket. We played cricket on the road, and I can recall very distinctly how many times we broke windows playing on the road. And anytime you hit the ball and it would hit this lady's window in the community, and when the glass got shattered, everybody would run for cover. But of course, little boys, when you hear that the police will be summoned, so nobody would keep it a secret, and you'd be quick to say who's the culprit. And it happened a few times, but just looking back, it is a kind of upbringing, as I said, I will not trade for anything anywhere else in the world.
Indeed. And so you grew up in Dennery North, but also you've worked. You worked in
Yes.
Dennery North. How has that essentially shaped your life?
Yes.
working and living in the constituency?
One thing about me, Mondi, and you'll find a lot of persons in my age group, we have a very strong community orientation. As I said, we started playing cricket on the road, we played football on the road, we did everything on the road and on the playing field. And naturally, as we started refining our talents, we were recruited into the community team, and we started playing for, at the time it used to be Roots, which became Togetherness Youth, one of the sports clubs in the Mabuya Valley, but this one is based in Dennery, where I live. And from there, you went on to represent the district, you became part of administration, you moved from being club president to being the sports council president, which is the umbrella organization for all the youth groups in the community. You became a representative at the level of NYC. I became a representative on the board of management of the Cricket Association, the Football Congress, and from there I was elected the principal secretary of the St. Lucia Cricket Association. I went on to manage the Windward Islands under 19 cricket team, the St. Lucia under 19 cricket team. And I have always said to people that even when I went to university Monday, I was going to formalize something I had already attained just by way of community involvement. And that is why at every opportunity, I always encourage young people to join groups. You may not get the benefits in tangible forms today or tomorrow, but down the road, when you look back, you would value immensely the impact that involvement and service would have had on your development. And as I said, when I went to university, I believe that given some of the concepts that were being discussed in class and things of that sort, I was basically coming to formalize something I would have already attained just by way of community service.
So what exactly did you study? Because I always had the tale that you could have been a professional cricketer if you had a better coach.
Yes, this is a joke that we had making the rounds in the cabinet during 2011 to 2016 when the Labour Party was in office. Everybody knows about my association with Dr. Robert Lewis, a man for whom I have a tremendous amount of respect and admiration. I would have first encountered Dr. Lewis at St. Mary's College when he was the teacher in charge. I think nowadays maybe the label teacher in charge is more applicable to Dr. Lewis than coach at the time. But he was the one providing the guidance for us on the St. Mary's College cricket team. And very serious man, he was big on discipline. And sometimes we used to joke about it and say that maybe had Dr. Lewis not been the coach, and I had a more accomplished coach, I could have been on the West Indies team. But we see all of this in jest. But my association with Dr. Lewis is one that I value tremendously. We were on the phone as recent as yesterday, and sometimes when the pressure begins to mount in the politics, he's one of the persons I can always pick up my phone and call for guidance, for encouragement, for support, for motivation. Yes. So
you studied, you came back home, you taught, and now politics. Why would you leave, and what would have been a stable profession at the time, to get involved in politics?
One day I always say to people when they say to me, you're a politician, it is something that I refute all the time. Okay. I just happen to be a teacher spending time in the corridors of politics. I'm a teacher by training. I spent 2 years at the Division of Teacher Education and Educational Administration at the South Louis Community College. Okay. I think that particular stint in a classroom had a tremendous impact on my development and my understanding of the wider world. Upon completion of the 2-year program, I went back to the Olio Combined School where I started my teaching career. I can recall Monday, the first day in the classroom at Olio Combined. In those days, we had a situation where all the students from the Olio Combined School would not get in places at the secondary schools, and so some of them would stay back, and we had standard 6 and standard 7, but the numbers were small, so they were all placed in one class. And the principal, may his soul rest in peace, the late Felix Udovic, who was a national cricket umpire, Windward Islands umpire. I would have met Mr. Udovic on the cricket fields almost every year in national competition. And when I applied for a teaching job, well, I didn't apply to teach at the Olio Combined School. I submitted an application to the Teaching Service Commission, and I think Mr. Udovic had a few vacancies at his school. And going through the list of persons who had interest in teaching in what at the time was District 3, he stumbled on my application, and he did not hesitate to take it and give me a call. I reported for work the first day. I can never forget writing my very first word on the chalkboard, and a child said to a colleague in the back of the class, "Hey, gamane kamache." I quickly erased it Monday, and for 2 days I didn't have the confidence to write a letter on the board. I went home that afternoon and asking myself, do you really want to do this, boy? But I mustered the courage. I came back and it spent 2 years. I went to Teachers College. Upon completion of the program at Teachers College, I was redeployed to the Olio Combined School, I returned to the Olio Combined School, where I taught for 2 years, and then I moved on to university. Upon completion of my university program, the ministry had a policy per se that based on what you studied and given the vacancies that existed at secondary schools, persons like myself who were trained teachers who were coming back home with a bachelor's degree, they would have preferred seeing us in the secondary school system. So I was redeployed from Olio Combined to the Clendon Mason, the Dennery-based Clendon Mason Memorial Secondary School, where I taught for 5 years. The final year I served as what is now known as EMIS coordinator. I think the ministry was piloting a program, Education Management Information System Coordinator, where you were basically the school's statistician, and they were basically trying to incorporate the application of computer technology into school administration. So I did quite a bit of that. I was also the internal CXC registrar. That came with a bit of stress and drama, because I can recall very vividly Monday that when the deadline was approaching, there are some students who would literally duck you. They would stay away from school, and you have to go find them at their homes to get them to come and register. And sometimes you even had to go as far as trying to mobilize resources to get them to pay for the CXC exams and things of that sort. So I stayed there for 6 years. And during that time, I was obviously a supporter of the St. Lucia Labour Party, but I could not have been in the open for very obvious reasons, because it would have been against the staff orders and the general principles of public service engagements that public officers are not supposed to show a preference for any political party. During that time, a lot was happening in the constituency politically. We would have had Anthony Torrance. In 1997, he won for a second time, because he would have won in 92, and he was in opposition. He won in that 16-1 landslide in 97. He was part of the cabinet in a junior capacity. In 2001, he was defeated by Marcus Nicholas. In 2006, Damian Greaves replaced him as candidate, and Greaves was not successful at the polls. So during this time, the Labour Party was busy looking for a candidate, and I can never forget the day when some individuals came to me and said they have found a candidate, and the candidate is you, Shawn Edward. Monday, honestly, if we had dogs at the time, I would have let my dogs loose on them. Yes, they knew I was a supporter of the Labour Party. I would have been involved behind the scenes in Anthony Torrance's campaign, and likewise Damian's campaign. But I think they were taking it one step too far to ask me to be the candidate, or to even tell me that they have found a candidate, and the candidate is Shawn Edward. I did put up a lot of resistance. I don't want to revisit that for obvious reasons. I did put up a lot of resistance. I did not want to be the candidate. I did not believe at the time that this is the best way in which I could have served my party and country. But the negotiations continued at all levels, and I can recall on a particular Saturday afternoon, an operative of the United Workers' Party came knocking on the door. When I opened, he told me that he was here. The UWP had sent him because they knew historically my family supported the United Workers' Party, and now they're hearing that I might be the candidate for the UWP, and that if I am at all considering to go that way, I'll be making the mistake of my life, and that they have a better package, they have a better offer, they're a better team. And he just came here to tell me that the United Workers' Party is very much interested in me being the candidate for the UWP on the eve of the 2011 general elections. So I was in the middle, and I was being tugged in two directions. But I was pretty clear in my mind what I really wanted, and that was to serve in a less demanding capacity. But to fast track, it was a very rapid transition after I accepted, yes, that I will put up my hand for the people of Dennery North. And what is very instructive here, Monday, is that I did not agree to become the candidate when the United Workers' Party was in government.
Yes.
We were in opposition, and at every turn, people kept on telling me that if I were to sacrifice my teaching job to run for the SLP, I'll be doing myself a disservice because we're not going to win as long as Kenny Anthony is the leader. And why would I want to give up my little teaching job that has served me so well to venture into politics? And I recall the day that I was taking that resignation letter from the leader of the opposition's office. Well, I penned it at home. I signed it. I left the leader of the opposition's office where it is on, I think, Chisel Street.
Yes, Chisel and High, yes.
And I had to drop it on the waterfront. I don't know how I ended up all by the cathedral just to get to the waterfront. It was a very nerve-wracking experience. But you know what really fortified me in doing it? I believe for too long, the people of Dennery had toiled on those banana fields to bring in the revenue for this country. And there was hardly anything to show for it Monday. And even my predecessors and other people, I believe, did not get as much as they should have gotten. It may not entirely have been their fault. But I just believe that as a people, as a community, we were shortchanged in terms of what we were getting out of the national purse. It was not commensurate with the efforts that we were putting as a community on those banana fields to bring in the millions of dollars in the form of revenue for this country. And so I decided that I was going to be one of those to put up my hand and go out there and represent Dennery North to the best of my ability. I don't think I've done too badly Monday. Those who know me and who have served with me will tell you that I can be very aggressive in trying to get things for my community and my constituency. So that was the motivation for me. I did not come in this because I wanted to be famous or I wanted my name to resonate nationally. I just knew that every time I was going to cross that bad hill, I was carrying the hopes and aspirations of an entire community with me, and that I was going to do it to the best of my ability. I tried to stay away from scandal, drama, because I want that when the average person from Dennery North engages in a political conversation anywhere in St. Lucia, that they can do so with pride, and
yes,
a pride that is predicated on the quality of representation that the parliamentary rep has been providing out there. I try to do my best in the parliament. I try to carry myself in a dignified way on talk shows and just in the public generally. And if you ask me how have I done Monday, I think I've done a good job thus far. But for us in Dennery North and the supporters of the Labour Party, I think one of our biggest achievements politically was when we were able to withstand that avalanche in 2016, where there was a massive swing in favor of the United Workers' Party. And for persons who know that city historically will tell you that this was John Compton territory. And the United Workers' Party had a very solid base in Dennery North. But we did our work for 4.5 years consistently. And I think the people of Dennery North, they expressed their confidence and satisfaction in my ability to represent them by going to the polls against the odds and to have elected me for a second time.
Okay. St. Lucia, my guest, Honorable Shawn Edward, the MP for Dennery North, two-time MP at that, once in government and now in opposition, and he's going for yet a third term, so we'll see more of his plans and hear of his plans for the constituents of Dennery North. So please stay tuned to Chill and Chat. Welcome back to Chill and Chat St. Lucia. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis, and my guest, two-time MP, Honorable Shawn Edward for Dennery North. So, Honorable, we were speaking about your work, your work in Dennery North, the representation that you have provided. You are one of, I don't want to say the few, but one of the 11 who, in 2011, the St. Lucia Labour Party was elected. So your first try, you became an MP, and which meant that you also became, well, not meant, it's not automatic. You served as a cabinet minister in the very first Ministry of Youth Development and Sports.
Absolutely.
And again, your tenure speaks for itself in terms of what we did in youth development and the sporting facilities in St. Lucia. Now that you're in opposition, how has those 4.5 years been for you?
Monday, I can never forget the day when Dr. Anthony said to me that this stint in opposition will serve me well, and it will make me a more refined politician, a better representative of people. We had just lost the general election of 2016 when he said that to me. And I was thinking to myself, I mean, what is he talking about? We just lost, and that is what you tried to say to me, that this will make me better. I just could not have understood at the time that we had done so much work and yet people were not satisfied with our efforts and that they were prepared to vote us out. But looking back, I think this is perhaps the best thing that could have been said to me, reading the situation as is. I think opposition has taught me lessons that I would not have learned had it been 2 consecutive terms in government. I know the struggles of opposition. I know what it's like to be the incumbent as far as the government is concerned. So I think I'm better placed today to assess situations. I think I'm in a better position to know how to use and deploy resources for the betterment of the community. But just going back to opposition, if I may, just for a short while, I must tell you that we have not been treated fairly in opposition. And it's not something I like to say because you come across as a crybaby. But I don't know that this has ever happened in the history of our country before, where an opposition has been so starved of state resources. Whether it's street lamps you request, intervention with roads, or an exemption card for somebody who's struggling to meet their commitments to the hospital in terms of bills and things of that sort, you do not even get a reply from some of the government entities or ministers to whom you write. And so that has been a very humbling experience for me. But it has not deterred me in any way to speak on behalf of the people of Dennery North. I've always taken my parliamentary position very, very seriously. And like I said to you before, this is not an opportunity for me to project myself in any way where I want to be famous or I want my name to resonate in political conversations in Senator. If it happens, then so be it. But my primary objective in this thing is to give expression to the concerns, the problems, the plight of the people of Dennery North. And I think once I can continue highlighting the issues as confronted by my people, I'll be doing my job. I am not prepared to just sit by and allow things to conditions or situations to deteriorate and then say that I'm not in government. No, I must be the voice of the people at all times. I will try as much as possible to be objective in discharging my responsibilities to my constituents. But I think this is only for a time. I think we have endured for 4.5 years now. We will soon be going to the polls. And I feel extremely confident that when the election is called, that the people of Dennery North will once again repose their confidence in my ability to go out there and to represent them again.
What are some of the hallmarks of of the achievements that you think that you are proud of, and you think that the people of Dennery North are proud of during your tenure as MP?
One of the first and foremost would be the completion and the realization of the Dennery North Water Redevelopment Project.
Oh, yes.
For many, many years, the people of Dennery North had to suffer some of the worst inconveniences as far as the water supply was concerned. You would have heard me at other forums saying that the problem was twofold. We had a quality issue where you had the infiltration of agrochemicals, you had bacteria, and a lot of other things contaminated the water supply. We had the prevalence of waterborne diseases at one time. And during the days of green gold, when everybody was looking for a piece of land to cultivate bananas, so to speak, the forest was indiscriminately cut for banana cultivation, compromising the watershed, and that caused supply to dwindle significantly. And so we had constant water shortages. And it was against that backdrop that we decided to embark on a water project. The water project had been spoken about for decades, long before I even entered the political fray. And promises were being made, programs were being proposed, and it was just talk until 2011, 2012. Well, 2011, when I took to the hustings ahead of the elections, I campaigned on the promise that Shawn and the National Labour Party will once and for all tackle the water problem in Dennery North. I had the backing of the then Prime Minister, Dr. Anthony. And when we got into government, Alva Batiste, at an OAS meeting, but even before that OAS meeting in Guatemala, he would have gone to all the meetings and he would have engaged other friendly governments to ask them for assistance, but nothing was forthcoming until that meeting in Guatemala in 2012, when the Mexican government gave a commitment that they were going to help us with that water project. And so we got a grant of US $5 million, which translated to 13 million EC for phase 1. But even whilst we were in government, we realized that the 13 million EC that we would have gotten by way of grant from the Mexican government, that would not have been sufficient. And so we put forward a loan application to the CDB for an additional 22 million EC. And before elections, the elections of 2016, the CDB, they agreed with us, and the proposal put forward to the CDB that was upheld. And so the money was, funding for phase 2 was secured. So when the United Workers' Party got into government, all they had to do was to just continue with the project. And today I am very, very pleased, I'm happy, I feel vindicated that as we speak today, that there's a very reliable water supply in Dennery North, not just in terms of the supply, but the quality surpasses what obtains in any other part of this country as we speak.
Okay, and but we've seen you recently in terms of the constituency of Dennery North seems to be, I don't know, targeted, plagued by a number of issues, especially when it came to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic exposed the neglect of this constituency after, you know, the 4.5 years of a UWP government. How have you and your constituents responded to some of these challenges, and if you could articulate what these challenges have been? Well,
you see, Mondi, you have to look at it in a much broader context. As I said, during the heyday of the banana industry, I mean, there was a buoyancy about the community, the constituency. Every pocket, there was the circulation of money, people were self-sufficient, and people were enjoying a decent standard of living as a result of the banana revenue that was substantial. But since we lost the preferential treatment on the European market, the industry had to undergo several changes. And as a result, people who were not able to keep up with the demands of the industry in terms of what they were required to do, even before a box of bananas could have been shipped, a lot of them just decided to leave. And it was really a struggle. And we saw evidence of that displacement manifesting itself in the form of children not having adequate supplies for school. The COTS van used to come and repossess almost every other week. The utility companies were moving in mercilessly to disconnect people who were not able to meet the bills. And so it resulted in migration, and quite a few persons fled to Martinique to earn a livelihood for themselves and their families. So in the post-Green Gold days, it has been a challenge. And the answer is not for people to hoist a white flag of submission, but to try other things. And we, as a Labour Party government, realizing that there was an unemployment issue, further nice, we were able to provide relief for some people through the home health program, the farm labor support program, the plain field maintenance program. And we were also encouraging people to start small businesses as a way of generating income for their families. The other thing that became very apparent is the spike in the number of persons who became very reliant on remittances. Almost every other week, you had people from the constituency lining up Western Union or MoneyGram because they just did not have it. And we have a very large Dennery North population in the diaspora, so people were trying to help their families out. So there were a lot of challenges that emanated, as I said, from the demise of the banana industry as we knew it. But since then, people have tried to pick up the pieces. People are now beginning to underscore the value of education for what it is. And I'm very encouraged when I see young persons from the Mabuya Valley, Dennery North, in leadership positions in key government agencies. And this is a point I probably should have made earlier, Monday, when you asked me how I became involved in the political process. Prior to 1979, thereabout, representatives of Dennery in the politics of this country were people who either came from Castries or elsewhere. We did not have, well, there was a perception that we did not have the quality, the homegrown quality, whereby one of us could have represented us. But thanks to the process of education, persons like myself, Jimmy Henry, Andy Daniel to a certain extent, even Angela Napoleus, we are products of an education system that has started to deliver. So no longer would you have somebody live in their comfort zone in Castries, Grosile, or those places, and to just surface in Dennery North because they want to be the candidate. I think we have come a long way, and I'm very much heartened and encouraged by the fact that the next generation of leaders in Dennery North are going to be homegrown talent, people who have gone through the school system, people whose parents were lab aware, doing menial jobs just to make ends meet to send their children to school. I'm a proud product of that, Mondi, and as I said, I'm very encouraged knowing that the next generation of leaders will not be people because of their standing in society or because of their affluence can just come and impose themselves on the community. We've come a long way, but there's so much more ground to be covered. And when people ask me, but Shawn, what is your legacy? What are you most proud of as a member of parliament or somebody who has served the community? Yes, the infrastructure projects, I'm proud of them. I just alluded to the water project, and there's so many other projects that I can speak to. But Mondi, I'm going to disclose this on national television today. I had a chronic problem with wetting my bed as a youngster. And I recall on rainy days, you had to put that out to get dry and that kind of things. And you did not have the best living conditions growing up. But I want that when I go into the Richmond Combined School, or the Olia Combined School, or the Larissus Combined School, or the Dennery Combined School, that I can tell a child who's wetting his or her bed that I used to do likewise. But I'm the same person who emerged out of that, and I can deliver a speech at a Commonwealth Ministers meeting in the UK. I can be the chairman of CARICOM's Council for Human and Social Development meeting, COSOD, and I can be the Minister for Youth Development and Sports. I can sit in a cabinet. I can be the second deputy leader of a major political party. So my legacy, what I really want it to be, is for the average child in Dennery North to see himself or see herself in Shawn Edward. Humble beginnings, I slept on the floor, we did not have all the amenities growing up, but through the process of education, I was able to overcome all those things and make something out of myself. I am still a work in progress as far as I'm concerned. But I don't think I've done too badly in the circumstances. And if the average child in Dennery North can use me as an example or can be encouraged by my example, I would have done my job.
Very nice. And so now you're going for a third term, Shawn. You said you did a lot, but you still have a lot to do. And we see you have quite a huge following in Dennery North, especially of young persons. I mean, whenever I go to Dennery North, listen, the energy down there is something that you can feel. How have you been able to organize and keep people energized, even in opposition?
Mondi, people of Dennery North are very, very intelligent people. And the one thing I like about my constituents is that irrespective of what they do, there are no half measures. Is either they for you or they against you. Is either they for this thing or they're not for it. Is either they in support of this project or they do not support it. And that is how, to use a colloquial term, that is how we roll. And in opposition, I have not left the ground. It wasn't a case where I was in government, then my party was booted out, and then I went into hibernation. I've been on the ground. I've maintained a presence on social media as best I can. I go to parliament whenever the parliament is convened. I don't skip a day. I attend the funerals. I go to the schools, and I keep a presence because, as I said to you, I take my role as parliamentary rep very, very seriously. And I think people have seen that. They've recognized that. And very importantly, what they know is that when I had access to state resources, I delivered. And every single pocket community in Dennery North was impacted. So they're now beginning to compare that period when I was in government and the Labour Party was in government with a period now where the United Workers' Party is in government and absolutely nothing is being done in the community. So now on the eve of elections, what you have, Mondi, is that a lot of project proposals are being made. There's a lot of engagement of people, a lot of promises are being made. But I know my people are not as gullible as some people think. And once the elections are called, I think Dennery North is quite ready to go to the polls to vote for Shawn Edward and the Central Labour Party. And a third term beckons, and I'm really looking forward to the challenges of a third term in government, of course.
But so you're saying that probably because you represent the Central Labour Party are the MP that your constituency has been neglected by this present government?
Well, this is one of the strategies that this current United Workers' Party administration uses. They do not go through the parliamentary rep to get anything done. And I always reference the Constituency Development Program. The Constituency Development Program, or the CDP as we know it, is funded by the Taiwanese government. This is a program where MPs basically identify projects in their constituencies to be executed using the monies from the Taiwanese government. When we were in government, every single one of the 17 parliamentarians in this country, whether they were in opposition or in government, benefited from the Constituency Development Program. And I remember Dr. Anthony making it a point that men and women who have been elected must be treated in a particular way, and they must have a say on things in their constituency. To be fair to those who were in opposition at the time, Monday, they may have complained at the time, or they can say that they did not get the same amount that we got. But everybody got. And everybody was able to preside over a project or two in their respective constituencies. 4.5 years. We are approaching the 5th year. None of us in opposition, not one of us, not myself, Dr. Anthony, Moses Baptiste, Alva Baptiste, Ernest Hille, or Philippe Pierre, has presided over a single project in our constituencies. Not one. And when you speak of our government being vindictive and to an extent wicked, this is the justification for it. But as I said, these things are not going to break me. I am quite resolute in my stance and my belief that Dennery North is a better place when the St. Lucia Labour Party is in office. My people know that, and that is what we're working towards as the election draws nearer, for us to win again, so that my people can get, as I said, what they rightfully deserve from the national pie.
Okay. St. Lucia, this is Shawn Edward, Honorable Shawn Edward, the MP for Dennery North. But we have to take a break, so we'll be right back to Chill and Chat. Welcome back to Chill and Chat. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis, and my guest, MP for Dennery North, Honorable Shawn Edward. So, Shawn, we spoke about your constituency, life in government, and now life in opposition, and you getting ready really for a 3rd term as MP, an MP in government when we win the next general election. But we're going to leave the politics for now and have what I call a quick fire segment. Good fun. So, my first question to you. Name one person who changed your life.
Veronica and Selena Edward, my mother.
Okay, very nice. What is your favorite place in St. Lucia? And don't tell me then.
Modi, I think you want to know my second.
Okay, your second.
Well, Dennery North is obviously the place I call home. And I always tell people Dennery North is more than a community. The Mabia Valley is more than a community. It's an experience. It's more than the greenery. It's more than the river. It's more than the fruits that we produce. It's more than the long bunches of bananas we produce. It's a wonderful people. We have a lot of warmth. We exude confidence. It really is an experience. And I don't know of anybody who has come into this community and spend any amount of time who did not like it, and who wants to come back.
Yeah, my mom and I always say Dennery North deserves to be a country of its own.
Yeah.
Finish the sentence. What St. Lucia needs now is?
The St. Lucia Labour Party to put us back on course. I think we've lost our way. We have our priorities upside down. And we need a government that can begin to engender confidence in the people, especially at a time when the world is going through crisis. Nobody is going to look after us or baby us. We have to begin to look after our own affairs in a very challenging environment. And so I think you need a government that can, as I said, engender a sense of confidence and provide a sort of direction that our country needs at a time when the world is going through a lot of turmoil.
Okay. For your 3rd term as MP, what is the one issue that you would tackle if you had the opportunity to?
In constituency or?
In the constituency.
Well, I think we have a serious unemployment problem, but you really can't divest that from the housing situation in the constituency. So unemployment on housing would definitely be that. And when you look at housing, Monday, housing cannot go without land rationalization.
Okay, that's 3. Why Philip J. Pierre for Prime Minister?
He's experienced, he's honest, he brings a lot of integrity to leadership. He has been tried and tested. He's very knowledgeable, he's qualified, and I think he has very steady hands, and he has demonstrated to the people of St. Lucia what he's capable of, having served and having led some very key ministries that are pivotal in the whole national development process.
Okay. What are your thoughts on decriminalization of marijuana?
If I had my way, I would go to Bodley today, and everybody who has been convicted on marijuana charges, I would set them free and probably organize a bus to take them home.
Thank you for that, Honorable. Why the St. Lucia Labour Party?
Because I think the St. Lucia Labour Party is a party that has demonstrated time and again that we program and we plan for all facets of society, irrespective of people's standings in society. The Labour Party has a program and a plan for you. What obtains today is a government that looks after those who already have, a government that favors undeserving foreigners over locals, and that can never augur well for true development in a small island developing state like St. Lucia.
Very nice. What do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered as the person who crossed the bad little daily and provided true and competent leadership to the people of Dennery North, and to ensure that I paved the way for the next generation, where we can take our rightful place, continue to take our rightful places in leadership positions in the national scheme of development.
Okay. Soca or reggae?
Reggae and calypso. Old school reggae. I Lucky Dube, Peter Tosh. I like the old school reggae. I remember growing up in the community Monday, and there was this neighbor of mine, may his soul rest in peace, Toy. He had a massive sound system, and he had all the reggae tracks, and he never was satisfied to confine his music to the walls of his house. So when he turned up the volume, everybody in the community, you had no choice but to listen to what was being played. But it was very good stuff, rich stuff, educational stuff, and I grew up on that. And today, anybody who enters my vehicle, you'll probably hear Lucky Dube or Peter Tosh. Having said that, I love Kaiso. I think the only show I go to is Calypso Finals, although I've not been for a couple of years, but I love Calypso. These days, St. Dennery segment has been recorded right next door. Some of the persons who lead the way, some of the artists, the former students of mine. So I find some time to listen to that as well. Although I've had opportunities and moments when I have chided them for the lyrical content. But it's really nice to see that they are beginning to make something out of themselves through an avenue that they like. And it's something that is picking up. They have a huge following, millions of followers all over the world. So,
yes.
And this is pretty much in keeping with the philosophy of the Labour Party. We were the ones who gave expression to the creative industries sector, so to speak, when we were in government between 2011 and 2016. And it's really nice to see that young persons are coming to the fore and avenues are being provided for them for the realization of the talents that they've been blessed with.
Okay. Last question. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
I wish I had wings Monday to fly wherever I want, to wherever I want. But if I really had a superpower, it would be to heal the sick and probably take humanity to the brink of immortality.
Oh, wow. You're one of those who want to live forever?
Forever.
Okay. Well, that's it for the quickfire segment. Any closing words for your constituents and also the people of St. Lucia?
Yes, Monday. I think our country is, well, we've passed the crossroads. At the crossroads, you can make decisions and decide where exactly you want to go. And based on the path you choose, it can either bring you prosperity or better than where we are at. I think St. Lucia has lost the plot with this government, and the only way we can salvage whatever is left is to change the government. The Prime Minister appears to be directionless. He does not bring the level of compassion you expect of a leader of a country to the table. He is known for making very disparaging remarks about the citizens of this country. More than that, I think his handling of the resources of the country has left a lot to be desired. And in an environment, as I said earlier on, where the world, everybody's busy looking after themselves, the little that we have to do whatever we can to salvage. And that calls for people of integrity, that calls for a certain degree of competence, at the helm of the ship of state, and I believe the time is right for Philip J. Pierre to be given that opportunity. And very importantly, people have to know that when you go to the polls this time to vote, do not allow yourself to be fooled by a contract. Do not allow yourself to be bought with $500. The situation that confronts St. Lucia is much more serious than $500 or a contract. You have to vote to salvage the future and the opportunities for your children, for your grandchildren, for the next generation. And this can only be achieved in the short term by changing the government and to give the Senatorial Labour Party another chance to govern this country. And you will begin to see for yourself the results that Senator so badly needs right now. I'm extremely confident, as I said, Monday, that the people of Dennery North are going to retain me as their rep. And I'm hoping that when the Labour Party wins, I will be given an opportunity, at the behest of the Prime Minister, of course, to make a contribution in an area of national development that I'm passionate about. And I'm always willing and ready to serve Dennery North, serve the Mawia Valley, and serve St. Lucia, my country.
Thank you, Honorable Shawn Edward. St. Lucia, two-time MP and going for his third consecutive term. And we wish you well, Honorable, and thanks for being on Chill and Chat.
Thanks.
This is it, St. Lucia. I'm your host, Mondi Lewis, and thanks for tuning in to Chill and Chat.